Imagine waking up tomorrow and the power grid in your city is it's entirely gone. You try to turn on the lights, nothing.
Yeah.
You check your phone, absolutely no signal. And you find out later it wasn't a storm, it wasn't a blown transformer. It was literally a hacker sitting 2,000 miles away who just decided to press a button.
Right. I mean, it sounds like the opening scene of a Hollywood thriller. But that scenario is actually the new reality of global conflict, where we're moving away from traditional battlefields and into this space where the weapons are invisible and the targets are everyday civilian infrastructure.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a recently leaked document. It's a global intelligence brief, The Escalation of Shadow Warfare, dated March 14th, 2026.
A very recent, very alarming brief.
Exactly. And if you're just catching these news stories individually on your social feed, you might completely miss the pattern. So our mission today is to connect these dots for you. We are going to map out exactly how the covert world of intelligence is bleeding out of the shadows.
It really is.
Yeah, from high-level assassinations and hacked power grids to massive spy ships parked in volatile waters. We're going to show you how traditional espionage, cyber warfare, and geopolitics are merging to reshape global security.
And, while these stories read like a thriller, they represent a very real, very serious evolution in how global powers compete for dominance today.
Right.
They're testing boundaries and inflicting massive damage without ever formally declaring an all-out war.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand this gray zone, we actually have to start with something very red and very physical.
The kinetic front.
Right, the kinetic front. And when we say kinetic, we mean physical violence. Bullets, blood, actual physical harm. So the brief kicks off with this February 6th assassination attempt on a really high-ranking Russian military intelligence official.
GRU Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev.
Yeah. For you listening, the GRU is Russia's military intelligence agency. And Alexeyev isn't just some field operative. He is the deputy head.
He is. And what's fascinating here is how quickly a physical attack on one man translates into a massive diplomatic crisis.
Because by March 8th, the fallout was huge, right?
Absolutely. We saw this massive diplomatic and internal ripple effect. During negotiations, Russia confronted Ukraine in a tone that the brief literally describes as harsh.
Harsh. Yeah, not a word you want to see in a diplomatic cable.
Exactly. They were demanding answers. And Moscow didn't just wait for a reply either. The Russian Federal Security Service, the FSB, they immediately launched a wave of arrests.
And they aren't just arresting random people, right? They're claiming these individuals acted for Ukrainian intelligence, but with a very specific explosive detail.
The British trace.
Right. They are claiming this was done under British oversight.
Which is a remarkably heavy accusation to throw around. And the FSB's actions, they aren't just outward-facing toward Ukraine or the UK. They've significantly escalated operations against internal dissidents within Russia itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they recently arrested 2 Russian citizens, explicitly accusing them of sharing military intelligence directly with Ukraine. So they are locking down their own house while simultaneously pointing fingers at foreign adversaries.
I mean, it feels incredibly old school. It's like a classic Cold War spy novel, just playing out in real time. But I want to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
We hear about spy versus spy games all the time, but going after the deputy head of the GRU seems like a massive escalation. I mean, how often do intelligence agencies target leadership so directly?
Almost never. It's a massive red line. And that's what makes this so dangerous. Targeting a figure like General Alexeyev crosses a boundary that most intelligence agencies respect for their own survival.
Like professional courtesy.
More like mutually assured destruction in the intelligence world. If you start assassinating the architects of the agencies, the retaliation won't just be proportional, it becomes uncontrollable.
Right, the unspoken rule is you can target our operations, but don't touch the generals.
Exactly, because once the people giving the orders feel physically unsafe, the gloves just come off entirely. This highlights the heightened risks of the Russia-Ukraine conflict spilling over into direct intelligence warfare. It sets a dangerous new precedent for proxy confrontations.
Right. And if assassinations represent that old-school physical crossing of red lines, the retaliation and the expansion of this conflict are happening in a much more modern arena.
The digital realm.
Exactly, the digital front. The brief explains that Russian cyber operations are no longer confined to just Ukraine.
No, they're not. Specifically, we're looking at operations linked to the FSB's Center 16. The source highlights a recent highly coordinated cyber attack on Poland's power grid.
Poland?
Yes, and it was successfully traced right back to Russian state-sponsored hackers.
It's like the battlefield has no physical borders anymore.
Huh.
Suddenly, the front line is sitting inside an EU power plant.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
But help me understand the strategy here. What is the strategic value of hitting a power grid in Poland? Is this just about causing chaos, or is it a warning shot to the rest of Europe?
It's definitely both, but it's part of a much broader picture. By targeting the EU's critical infrastructure, state actors are testing the waters.
Testing how?
They want to see exactly how far they can push NATO-aligned countries using non-kinetic cyber means without triggering a traditional military response.
Oh, right, because an actual bomb on a Polish power plant would be Article 5.
Exactly, World War III. But a computer virus that shuts down the same plant. It's devastating, but it operates in that gray zone. The West struggles to formulate a proportional response to a line of code.
It is terrifying.
It is, and power grids aren't the only critical infrastructure vulnerable to these covert attacks.
No, they're not. Which brings us to a nation's political system.
Right. A political system is just as much of a target as an electrical grid.
Which logically moves us from digital sabotage to political manipulation. We're talking about the political chessboard in Eastern Europe, specifically Hungary.
Right, the situation in Hungary.
So, opposition leader Peter Magyar has accused the Russian embassy in Budapest of deploying a covert team. And he says this team is linked to high-ranking Kremlin officials.
Yes, that's what the brief outlines.
And the alleged goal here, to influence the upcoming parliamentary elections and basically bolster Prime Minister Viktor Orban's re-election campaign.
Now, we need to be very careful here and maintain strict neutrality.
Absolutely.
The Hungarian government has firmly, categorically denied these accusations. We are not endorsing these claims or taking sides. We are simply analyzing the context provided by the intelligence brief.
Right, we're just reading the brief. But even just looking at the context, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Operating a covert team out of an embassy under diplomatic cover is a massive high-risk move.
That's a huge gamble.
So if we look at the strategic theory here, if these accusations were true, why take that risk right now? I mean, what makes Hungary the crucial domino for Russian influence in the EU?
Well, it comes down to how the European Union functions. Major decisions, especially regarding foreign policy or economic sanctions, often require unanimous consent from all member states.
Right. Everyone has to agree.
Exactly. So, if a global power wants to disrupt the EU, they don't need to control the whole bloc. They just need to maintain a sympathetic or even just a highly disruptive voice within it.
A veto.
Precisely. They secure a veto. And an embassy provides the perfect cover because diplomatic channels are protected under international law. So the brief focuses on this to highlight Russia's strategic intent, preventing Eastern European nations from shifting further away from its orbit.
Man, it's just wild how all these pieces connect. But we need to shift the lens globally now, because while Russia is focused heavily on its immediate neighbors in Eastern Europe through physical, digital, and political means, China is doing something entirely different.
Very different. They are quietly building a massive intelligence footprint on a truly global scale.
Right. The brief introduces the Liaowang 1. This is China's largest naval intelligence vessel, and it has recently been deployed in the Gulf of Oman, right near the Strait of Hormuz.
One of the most critical maritime choke points in the world.
Now, officially, the designation for this ship is space tracking.
Right. Officially.
Ostensibly for space tracking. I mean, who actually buys that when it's parked right next to one of the most volatile maritime choke points in the world? Especially right now, amid incredibly high U.S.-Iran tensions.
Well, no serious intelligence analyst buys it because the capabilities of the Liaowang 1 are staggering. It has sensors that can monitor 1,200 military targets simultaneously.
Wait, really? 1,200?
1,200 at the exact same time. It's essentially a giant floating vacuum cleaner for signals intelligence.
But explain the why here. Why does China want real-time data on U.S.-Iran tensions when they aren't even directly involved in that specific conflict?
It is all about the strategic value of observation. By soaking up data in the Middle East, China is learning exactly how American and Iranian forces operate under stress.
It's like watching a scrimmage from the front row.
Exactly. They map radar frequencies, communication protocols, response times. And this plays into a much longer game.
Gathering high-value military intelligence to enhance their own strategic position globally.
Yes, it protects their economic interests, like the oil flowing through that strait, and it allows them to learn from the tactics of other global powers without firing a single shot.
And they aren't just observing from ships either. The brief also details a cyber campaign in Southeast Asia.
Right. But this is very different from the Russian attack on the Polish power grid.
How so?
Well, the China-based campaign was uncovered using custom malware. And the goal wasn't indiscriminate theft or shutting off the lights to cause panic. It was specifically designed to collect high-value, sensitive defense data.
So it's silent.
Completely silent. It's surgical. They want to get in, copy the blueprints or the defense strategies, and get out without anyone ever knowing they were there.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. Because all of these localized actions, the assassinations in Eastern Europe, the cyber attacks in Poland, the surveillance ships in the Middle East, they're all occurring under a really dark, looming umbrella.
The threat of nuclear escalation.
Yes, the ultimate stakes. The brief details the recent Russian Foreign Ministry condemnation of Western discussions about transferring nuclear capabilities to Ukraine.
Right. They framed any such transfer as a dangerous, unacceptable escalation.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I look at all this and think shadow warfare is expanding precisely because nuclear weapons make traditional warfare too dangerous.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. That is exactly what's happening.
Because if massive armies fight directly, it risks a nuclear exchange. So the conflict just gets pushed down into the dirt. It gets pushed into the computer networks, the embassies, the gray zone.
I agree completely. And if you connect the dots between Russia's kinetic and digital operations and China's patient global data gathering, it's a convergence.
A broader strategic effort.
Yes, an effort to challenge Western power through a blend of espionage, cyber operations, and geopolitical maneuvering. The global security landscape is being entirely reshaped by these gray zone conflicts. Traditional war is too costly, so this is the new battlefield.
It really is. Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. I want to thank you, the listener, for joining us on this journey through the world of modern intelligence. We've gone from physical spycraft to digital grids and global surveillance nets.
It's a lot to take in, I know, but I want to leave the listener with a final question to ponder, something to really think about after this deep dive is over.
Let's hear it.
If the front line of conflict is no longer a trench, but rather our power grids, our local elections, and the maritime trade routes that supply our goods, how will the average citizen even know when a world war has actually started?
That's a terrifying question.
Or is it possible that we are already living right in the middle of one, completely blind to the shadow warfare happening all around us?
Wow, yeah. Just invisible battles happening every single day. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Stay alert out there, and we'll catch you next time.